I'd like to welcome to the JPP, the Jewish Philanthropy podcast, Chaya Yosovich. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. Chaya is currently the CEO of the Yael Foundation, a private charitable foundation established by Uri and Yael Poliavich. I guess that's why it's called the Yael Foundation, possibly, you'll tell us, dedicated to maintaining and developing Jewish educational institutions around the world. The foundation is committed to enabling Jewish children everywhere to receive a good general education, including Jewish values and traditions for the betterment and future of our communities. Chaya also has a pretty robust, rich career pre the Yael Foundation as well, which hopefully we'll jump into. So without further ado, Chaya, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for making the time from Eretz Israel to be here this morning for me, this afternoon for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's jump right in. So I always open up with just asking my guests to share with our audience a little bit in their own words, a little bit about themselves. Who are you?
Who am I? It's a good question. I also ask myself a lot of times, who am I? So I'm a mother of 9 children, Kenai Nahara. I live in Eretz Israel. I grew up here. A grandmother to 3. I always start with that, even though I'm very busy usually with my work, but maybe that's why I feel like I should be starting with my family. And I worked for many years on different things, for the Jewish, for Am Yisrael, in Israel, in the diaspora, with government, with foundations, with different organizations, and try to do good things.
Okay, that sounds like a powerful mission. I happen to know from our conversation pregame that you come from quite an illustrious family. So maybe share a little bit, if you might, about kind of where you grew up, a little bit about your family and how that impacts who you are today.
Okay. I mean, you spill the beans. Usually we stay behind it, trying not to say who we are.
No, we make our own way in this world, but it's also, I think it's important to give kavod to where we come.
Yeah. So I think it was also if you're asking, about the upbringing and so I would say it was one of the things that we grew up with. We also had before that, yichus of rabbanim and families, and always very easy to find a way in with the yichus. And my father always says, it's meaningless who are your grandfather or your great-grandfather. It's who you are and how you're gonna go about it and what you're gonna say, and there's no even reason to say it. And that's how we really grew up, knowing that we have the responsibility to be who we are, and nothing to do with the family we came from.
Okay, I hear that.
Yeah, so that was one of the very important things we grew up with.
Okay, but not all of our listeners know you yet, so maybe if you're willing just to share a little bit of kind of, not to push you too much, but a little bit about the Torah household you grew up in.
Okay, so my maiden name is Lopiansky. Whoever knows, my parents live in the States in the last 30 years, but I grew up in Eretz Israel. And our upbringing was, a very, in a way, very, we knew exactly, what is the way and how, but we also had this place of think, what are you doing and why are you doing it? And don't just do it because everyone is doing it. And it's something very strong by all the siblings growing up, just think also, and don't just go and, by the flow and just do, because everyone is doing it.
I think that's, not to go, too far afield, but I think one of the beautiful qualities of your illustrious father is that he's very thoughtful. He's very thought out. He doesn't just kind of go with the flow. And certainly in complex times with difficult issues, he often demonstrates that amazing quality that of course trickled down to you and your siblings. I know you had quite a rich professional career, and obviously you raised many children concurrently. Tell us a little bit how you got involved. I think you're involved with government initially, if I'm not mistaken, or as an advisor to a minister in Knesset. How did that evolve? What was that experience like for you?
So I would say probably I started everything. I went to regular school and high school, and when I was graduating high school, my father was suggesting the idea to go to a camp in Russia, in Moscow, to be a madricha. it was before, it was popular. It was like a very weird thing to do. And, was everyone said it's dangerous. It's, but my father felt it's something that, can really give a lot. And I think that was like really the summer that gave me so much of who I am today and helped me, develop and be in a different place, which lead, that to being very involved in Russia in general. Then we went on shlichut to Moscow. And when we came back as a family,
So you were
I
married
was,
already, and you went with your husband and children to Moscow for a period of time?
yes. First,
Okay.
I went to camp twice. And
Mhm.
then after we got married, 5 years after we got married, we moved to Moscow for 5 years.
Wow.
And yeah, it was 1 year, but then another one and another one.
Wow.
And my husband was the head of the yeshiva there. I was the head of the school over there. And when we came back, I was offered a job by Minister Nahari in the Knesset, which he was very involved in the diaspora and education over there. And he felt like, if I know the world already and I know Russia, and so it would be a good person to help him out with these things. And this really brought me into a completely new world, which I didn't know before. And I kept on saying, I'm going to stop and I'm not going to ever go back into politics. And for some reason, it keeps on going around me. But over there, we really managed to start a few very big projects and help schools over there. And I was already continuing with other things within the government. I got to know how it works and more people, and to understand that there's a lot of cooperation we can do. Especially, my aim was diaspora Jews within the government. And that, led into Jewish Agency and all the other things around the government. But I would say for the last probably 18 years, I'm involved in that world. I keep on saying, I'm going to stop, but it's surrounded me. So I'm pretty involved over there.
I mean, it's an interesting point because, post October 7th, and we'll talk about that, of course, I think there's a lot of focus between the interwoveness of the diaspora Jewry with Jews in Eretz Israel. And there's clearly, from what you're explaining, that always is an emphasis. Maybe it isn't, people aren't always as cognizant or as aware, but certainly the government of Israel, the people of Israel, care about the diaspora Jewry. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, like just how that expresses itself or where that comes from?
Yeah. I would say that it used to be for many years that the Jews in Israel and also the government, they felt like the Americans or the Chutz La'aretz people are helping out Israel. And in the, I don't know, probably 10, 12, 15 years, there was like, something to think about, like not only we're getting from there, what are we doing for them and how we're connecting more people, So Taglit and Masa and everything is very nice, but still a deeper connection is something very, very important. And the more they understand it, the more they build, different things to have. Not necessarily everyone has to come to Israel, but definitely everyone has to be, somehow connected to what is going on. And I think it's a big change in general in Israel and in the government of seeing, the diaspora Jews in a way that, they have to be connected with or without making aliyah, with or without, having some money or whatever, but just because they're Jews and just because it's Israel.
It's very powerful. I mean, I would like, you would think that's like maybe like it is, I guess, like a Torah hashkafa. The Israeli government isn't per se like, isn't from, but like where is that? What's that rooted in? That's rooted in just a care for every, like what's at the shoresh of that hashkafa? Kind of like, where does that come from?
So I think at the beginning, because there's no like, a religious or Torah or attitude, so they didn't feel so connected. But somehow, with the work and with understanding and with really talking about it a lot and putting it into the mission of, Israel, it synced into the stakeholders over there to understand that Jews are Jews, and the world is, around Israel is still, very important, the Jews over there. And I can't say, what made the difference, but something really slowly got to their heads, and they all understand that, and they all feel that.
No, it's very powerful. Like, with, like, for example, like what's been going on in college campuses over here in America, like could have been like, okay, that's over there and that's over here, but you see it's not that way, right? You see Prime Minister Netanyahu was speaking out about it. Like there is this achdut, there is this feeling that we're all in this together wherever we are located in the world. Chaya, tell me a little bit, if you're willing to, a little bit about October 7th, just your personal experience. Where were you that day? Kind of how did you glean about unfolding events, and maybe a little bit post that as well, kind of how it's affected your work, your life, etc.
So obviously, affected everyone's life in the world. It's not the same what we were, before and after. First of all, like we have this thing, a lot of people here, I'm sure, also in the States, when Shabbos afternoon, when you get to Shabbos afternoon, he gets us like nervous, maybe something happened and we don't know about it, because Matzi Simchas Torah, we heard about everything and we felt like we missed out and something was going on, so like Shabbos, you have this feeling like almost every Shabbos, maybe something happened over there and we don't know. That's like a post trauma. The thing was, I was supposed to start this new role October 8th, and
Oh,
just
well.
everything changed around, which was very, very challenging. On one hand, I signed and I said, I'm starting. On the other hand, who could start anything, because it's like so far from us and there's so much to do over here. And it did take a few days to like understand that this is going to continue. We have to find solutions here, but in the same time, we have to help out over there. And the first thing we did is finding out from all the schools and communities we support if they have security, if they need anything to, if they need more guards, if they need the cameras, if they need anything that had to do with security. And the next day they already had the full budget to hire whatever they need and to fix whatever they need, because we felt that this is the time that's what we have to do immediately to help out the Jews. I would say, in a way, if I'm talking about diaspora, we feel that more people are connected now. Even people that were far do feel, like, first of all, they feel more safe and they feel more part of. And a lot of new people come to shul or come to, the JCCs or the schools or different places, depends also where, but they're definitely more connected. So in a way, that's something also that we're working with. And in a way, it's more dangerous and more scary, and there, more anti-Semitism, and we're trying also to see how and what we can do to help that. But things definitely change, the plan before we had, before Sukkot and the plan after Sukkot is like, I would say, almost two different plans. And also I think a lot of people are going to make Aliyah or think of making Aliyah and already, like, which also is going to change a little bit the game over there. And here in Israel, things are still, not the same. Everyone goes to work and to school, but there's something around that is just, going on, and we don't see the end of it. So we're trying, the whole time, it's like between the head and the heart, where you are and what are you doing, and it's surrounding us, and we hope we're going to grow from that, and it's going to be better.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Tell me just a little bit the evolution of this opportunity that you find yourself in now, this Yael Foundation. The philanthropists who are behind this foundation, they were people you had a relationship with previously. It was kind of something that just kind of came out of nowhere. Kind of, how did this kind of opportunity come to you?
Absolutely nowhere. I was not looking for a job, and didn't know the people. They reached out to me through someone that I worked with before, and basically, I had one meeting with Uri. He came to Tel Aviv and he says, we have a very big foundation. We know that we want to help out Jewish education and Jews around the world. We don't know how to do it, and we're just asking you to take over and try and help us with this big mission. I didn't say yes right away because I didn't, I didn't think about it. But the more I thought about it, I said, can't be something that I relate to more than doing these things around the world and getting to more Jews. And I was actually, without planning, just said, yes, I'm gonna take it on. And that was just before Sukkot, and that's where we are now.
What were you doing professionally when this opportunity evolved? You were in a different position doing something else?
Yeah, so I worked for the last 15 years with the Shema Yisroel network, which is network of schools in the FSU in Russia and Ukraine, which I was there before, and then through the government I was helping them, and then I was just working directly with the Reichman family and Mandel family from Toronto, that they are for probably 30 something years involved in this huge Kirov organization. So I was like the Israel representative of that. And I was also, since I live in Beit Shemesh, I worked with the mayor of Beit Shemesh for the last 2 years, helping develop and doing things here in Beit Shemesh. So I was busy with these two things. I would say, that was mainly what took my time.
Got it. So this new role that you're in, this new foundation, which I think hasn't even been around, a year yet. It's basically, sadly, commensurate with the length of the war. That's the existence of this foundation. It's in terms of the work you're doing now. So it's completely focused on the diaspora. It's not doing work in Eretz Israel proper. Its focus is on education in the diaspora. And
yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Diaspora and focused right now on Europe and seeing, where else and what else, but not going into Israel. Because of the situation here, we are, in a certain amount helping out things that are needed now, because, still we have to be realistic and see what is going on here. But mainly, I would say 90% is diaspora.
Got it. So right now you're focused on Europe. I imagine there are places in the diaspora you haven't, your tentacles haven't reached yet, right? You haven't even begun to reach out yet. What's the thought process? I'm going to ask you what's next, but I'm saying, how do you even begin to gauge kind of where to invest your efforts, and then assuming you go to a new locale, how do you begin that process? How does that even work? How does that evolve?
So it's a good question. I mean, knowing foundations, for many years, and I know the different ways of them working, we have something very unique in our foundation with the founders, are very, very particular about it, is don't waste time and just, like processing and doing and, like give the money and do it.
Like
Which usually,
topless.
Tachlis.
Yeah.
Tachlis, they should get the help and they could do things. So, in terms of just getting applications, seeing it, looking over and deciding. So we had to somehow, decide on, what we're giving and what not, because like you're saying, it's endless and where you going to. So the first thing was Europe. The second thing was like the Jewish Kirov school, not the religious schools, for the frum communities, and schools that have potential to get in more kids if they'll be better, or if they can pay a scholarship, or if they can do something, in different. So we want to help them get there and see that they can get to more people and families. And from there, once we're already engaged with a school or a community or a Sunday school, we encourage them to do more things for families, for community, to go further. But, we're trying to be fast, not too bureaucratic, and make sure, we're going to right places and not just, spending in places that are not everyone needs, but, like some things are more important, some things less.
My wife is from Vienna, Austria. Are you doing any work in Vienna at present?
Yes, we just started this month to help out the school over there. They have a very nice Jewish school. We went to visit, we saw it, and we gave them an okay for the getting support. We also do quite a few projects together with the Lauder Foundation, which
Sure.
they're very involved in Europe. They have already a lot of knowledge, so it's much easier to understand and get, more perspective from them and know where to invest more and what is urgent.
What is the greatest need that you're seeing? Like just for example, in Europe, what is the greatest need at the moment that you're seeing that is deemed kind of high priority investment?
So really, I think it changes from places. It's like Europe is not England or America, and things are very, very different. But we do see needs for Sunday schools, afternoons, for kids that don't go to Jewish schools. They are definitely more interested now on looking for something for the first time and to open and to start others. Another thing that we see also in different schools, they don't have places, also if they have more kids coming, they're not necessarily built, to have so many other new kids. So it's a nice thing because we want them to have a lot of kids, but with the capitals and the buildings over there, they don't really have where to put. And we're trying also to see, how to help that situation because you want them to be there. And I would say security and is probably the next urgent thing that everyone is
And that
asking
security,
for.
the security is focused just on schools or even on shuls, for example?
So first it was on schools only and the schools we work with because we know them and because but also schools and also depends also on the danger over there and we get some information on what are the places that we should invest first and what are the more urgent but also schools.
It's interesting because here in the States, for example, like there's a lot of government funding for security for shuls. Even that isn't 100% adequate. But in Europe, I'm curious, is that this is in addition to government funding or this isn't government funding for security in Europe like there is, let's say, in America?
So in Europe, just like I said before, on other things, it changes completely from place to place. So let's say, in France is totally different than Germany and Spain. And so some places have full security from the government. Some places they can have security without guns or without anything like that. And also if we pay for it, they cannot have it, which is, like you think, so they need them for. And some places you could ask the government for help and they would give part of it. So it's really totally different, from place to place. I would say probably if we're talking about, security and anti-Semitism and government, France, I think right now is like the most challenging place in the last few weeks, more than before, which was always, more challenging, but it's getting worse and worse over there. We get more and more calls from France.
Wow. Okay. Hashem Shmar. I'm curious. I was reading, I think I read that your foundation had a conference in Cyprus, maybe early in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Want to tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about what that was about and what was accomplished there?
Yeah. So, so the foundation is basically supporting programs. We don't really do our own things. We don't do, some foundations will do like, the teachers training or they do their own things. We don't do our own things. We support. But there are two things that we do from in the foundation. One of them is summer camp, and one of them is conference for principals, for leaders. The main reason is because our founder Uri feels that when you have a good principal of a school or a business or whatever, that really makes a whole difference of the place. And he wants to invest and give them and, have the opportunity of, trying and doing, whatever he can do in order to, in terms of helping the leaders to take it to the next level. And if you're already supporting and you're already doing so, you should have also the other piece of it and put everything together. So we had already twice this conference. This year was supposed to be January, and then we moved it, to February, and we still didn't know, if it's going to be or not. But it's very important for them also because they're pretty lonely. each one in their own school in their own place. And here they get together and they also get a lot of tools and things. So we invest a lot in this conference.
Very nice. I'm curious, I'm making a supposition here, but I'm imagining, let's say, I'm in the not-for-profit space. I'm familiar with different foundations and how things operate. I'm kind of curious. I imagine you probably did fundraising throughout your professional career. And if so, I'm curious kind of now that the hat is on, now that you're kind of wearing a different hat, now you're kind of like have the role of distributing funds as opposed to soliciting funds. I'm curious if you have new insights in terms of, we have a lot of fundraisers that listen to this podcast. I'm curious kind of if you have advice, insight, if you see things differently, or maybe you see things the same in terms of when you were wearing the other hat versus the hat that you wear now.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think also most of the people in our office were on the other side of it before. Now, we're kind of learning it from the other side of it. In a way, it's very nice because you don't have to worry about funding.
Right.
And in a way, you see first of all, the way, sometimes people send a request or, and you see why they wrote it and how, and, like according to what you're advertised that we're going to give for, and, and already like the head from the other side of it, why, it was written this way and why did they ask for this amount? And, so we know it. On the other hand,
you're the worst people. You're the worst people to be running the foundation because you know all
exactly,
the
exactly, and you feel it right away. You're saying like, on the other hand, seeing it from here also and seeing some places which are incredible, the work they do and what they put in, you appreciate it much more because you know how hard it is to do things that are not as hard, and they really really do so much, and you just want to help and be there because you feel like they deserve it. So, and then also you have a lot of requests that have nothing to do with it, and you don't want to be not nice, and how you were before, and just you don't get answers. On the other hand, it just like has nothing to do with the foundation, and you're just trying somehow to be a little nice and good and fine, and understand them. So it's an interesting turnaround.
And how do you, I mean, it might be too early to answer this question, but I guess now part of your responsibility is to ensure that the investment is bearing fruit, that like a priori you might think something's a good investment, and then over time you may realize maybe that wasn't a great investment. Kind of how do you go about, I don't need particular metrics, but kind of this, how do you, have you seen kind of like where maybe you thought A and you realize B, kind of, and how do you go about assessing, that?
Yeah, so first of all, of course, you think A and then, you see B, and I'm sure we're going to have more in the future and as we're going, because you never know. But on the other hand, I do feel like a very, very big responsibility to try and do my best, to make sure the money goes to the right places, because, it's stuck money, it's not my money, and, I have here a responsibility. So we do, check whatever we can check, and think about, we have different questions we ask ourselves before we say okay, and just make sure that we're doing our best to put in the right places. I could say that, as I was saying before, I feel that summer camps or, any like activities of Jewish, or things are, I can't say much more important, but very, very important, no less than schools. And I do want to encourage places, to put in more effort into that, because I think that it leaves the kids with a lot for their life. And this year we decided, that we'll give more support and help for summer camps in different places, that kids would come, if they would have the scholarship, the support, whatever. And that was, from a place that I feel that, it's a very important investment. Another thing that we came up with also recently, when one of the schools that we support were talking to us and the principal, and she said that they wanted for a long time to do a Shabbaton for parents. They're actually from France. and she just didn't have, the money for it. And finally they got together and they did, and like 40 parents came. So I said, at the end of the day, it's not so much money. It's just they're so busy with like the ongoing things. And I wanted them to think out of the box and say, you have an idea. You don't have to, now say you don't know how to do it. If you have ideas like that, so send it to us. And as long as it's engaging communities. And we felt that they're really doing a lot through that to, not the regular day to day, but to think and to do, more for, so, that's another investment that you feel at least, that something is more than the regular things that you're giving, but
Sure.
they could do other things.
How did the founders of this foundation, there are obviously many, many pressing needs in the Jewish world, how did they hone in on this particular focus? Why was this kind of the vision or the passion for the people that founded this foundation?
So they basically, growing up, didn't know anything. Uri, the founder, was growing up in Israel and he didn't know anything. And once they were getting, a little closer, they felt like they want to fix this thing and they want to make sure Jewish kids and Jewish families can have the place to know, they can do whatever they want with it, but to have the opportunity, which was very, very important for them. And that's how, they were like first, trying to figure out how and what, but they felt like any opportunity of Jewish place to give the kids Jewish knowledge is important. So, you get to more people that could know about it, and you did, your mission. So it came from this like hurting place, that they didn't have this opportunity when they were growing up.
Right. Other people should have what they didn't have. Interesting. I'm just curious, it's
Yes.
kind of tangential to the work that you do, but I imagine I've heard, right, in time of war in Israel, like it happened during the 6-Day War, and Revolba wrote a lot about it and spoke a lot about it in terms of kind of the transformation or the metamorphosis that you have so many Jews in Israel fighting a war, and there is a little bit of that, we'll call it the pinta yid, or this desire to kind of understand a little bit better, what am I fighting for? What besides just the land? Like, well, what is Judaism? What is Yahadut? So again, it doesn't sound directly related to your work because you're focused more on the diaspora, but what's your vibe, or what are you seeing in Israel right now in terms of people who are disconnected or disaffected, who are striving or yearning or looking? It's clear to me that there are people who are from that are trying to inculcate and are always looking for those opportunities. But I'm actually curious if you've experienced from the other side, people yearning or searching or looking more than before. I think yes, anecdotally, but I'm curious what your experience is.
I would say that I think that it divides into two, unfortunately. I think a lot of the soldiers and the younger people in the army feel much more connected. They ask more, they want to understand more. Unfortunately, there's also a very, very big crowd that are very anti and very angry, and it's anti-Haredim, and it's anti-this, and why they're not in the army. And there are a lot of questions. Some of them are very good questions and right, but it's not really, going to a good place, which, is unfortunately. But I think the younger ones, the soldiers and the people over there, and they do feel much more connected and wanting to understand much more. And that's a good part.
Right.
But it's definitely challenging.
So I'm again, I don't know you so well, but I'm just again supposing if I'm misspeaking, you'll correct me. I think you're rooted in the Haredi world in Israel, right? Beit Shemesh world, etc. And yet you're very broad, right? You're working in the diaspora, you're working to help less affiliated. You have historically, done that work. Kind of what has been your experience as a Haredi woman, overlapping in these spaces, and kind of maybe have a story or two to share, kind of the beauty of how the beautiful connection between those more observant and those not yet as observant, as opposed to, obviously there's negativity, but I'm curious if you have some good experiences that you might want to share just from your career, trajectory.
Yeah, so I'll tell you something. I grew up with this thing, of Kirov and thinking about other people and understanding, where they're coming from and what has to be. It's in my blood. It's not something, that I was, but there was, I would say probably 8 or 9 or no, even more, 10 or 11 years ago, a lot of tension in Israel, especially in Beit Shemesh, around the girl that, someone who spit on her, and there was really causing a lot of uncomfortable issues. And I do have, friends, from here and from there, and not everyone is Haredi, not everyone is religious, and you felt, that it's coming up and everyone is, looking differently. So I decided with a friend of mine, which is not Haredi, not religious, to start a group. I said, I'll bring 10 of my friends, you'll bring 10 of your friends, and we'll try and put them together in a room, and everyone will have a great time, and they see that they could be friends, just like me and you, we could be friends, they can also be friends. And I thought it would be very easy to bring the Haredi. She thought it would be very easy to bring her friends. And we got together a group of 20, and it was a disaster. It was the worst thing. I came home and I said, what did I think? There was literally 2 groups, and each one was just like screaming and yelling and arguing, and like each one had like their things, and I said, like, what did we think? Like, why are we doing it? And I was trying, the whole like week until the next meeting to think if we can do something different, because this is not going to work out. And the next meeting we did one-on-one. We divided them into small groups, and we gave them some kind of thing they had to do together, and it was just one-on-one. And this changed the entire thing, and they became so close that we still had 10 sessions going on, but they really got once it's like without stigmas and without the groups, and it's just one-on-one. So then you just feel we have so much common, and we are like almost the same. We're just this and this is but it's so different when it's like groups. And also in Israel in general, it's groups, like you live in one neighborhood, a group, and you live in another place, and a group, and then it's a group against a group, so it's much harder. So it was a very nice experience. I thought it was almost lost, but at the end of the day, it turned out to be a very, very, very good, nice group. We did another 2 groups after that, but it was an experience.
It's an interesting insight, because like we always talk about, from a Torah viewpoint, kind of the koach hatzibur, being part of a tzibur, and even tefillah b'tzibur, praying with a group, and being part of a group. But you see that oftentimes at the same time, the importance of a group, but a group can be overwhelming, and a group can sometimes positively reinforce, could also negatively reinforce. So it's interesting. Every group has individuals, and obviously we need to focus on the individuals. It's incredibly crucial and important, and then we can move from there to groups too. But it is an interesting,
Yeah.
very, very interesting. So as we wind down, I like to ask like 1 or 2 just kind of more personally geared questions towards my guests. You'll work with them, as you may. First question, just talk a little bit about individuals who inspire you. Kind of, you obviously, Canada Hara, you're blessed with a large family. You obviously have a lot on your plate. You're operating in different realms. Kind of, who do you look to or toward as inspiration, as motivation, in terms of either when times are difficult or just in general? Who are the people that really inspire you?
So I would say probably, I meet a lot of people, I know a lot of people, but people that really worked and went through, they got to be who they are because, they were going through a path, and, getting there are much more, I look up to them much more than just people, that just, they learned it, they know it in their head, and they're doing it, and just talking about it. And you see it, you see the difference, you see how, they became who they are, and the knowledge they have from it, the understanding they have from it, it's something that I really, really, really enjoy seeing and learning from when I meet people like that. I recently met a principal of a school, but what he has from it is not just, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. It's really, seeing things, that come from so deep in, which is very, very inspiring and very important for me, to go through that process and to have things, deep inside. You know, I don't know if you want to, like names or, but
To you.
I would say, in general, like, people that did some kind of talich,
Yeah, I hear,
process,
no, a very, very,
and
very beautiful answer. People who have worked and quote unquote earned their stripes.
yes,
I think
yes, yes,
no, I appreciate that. I was gonna, I say as a joke, like if somebody's like offered at a wedding at a chasnas, they'll say the following are the Eid Kedushin to the exclusion of all others in the room. So I say here, if you did mention one or two people, it wouldn't be to the exclusion of others. I'm saying it's
right,
but it's fine. You don't have to mention anybody. That way it's safe.
yeah.
Okay. Maybe in terms of, so you talked a little bit about Bali Nisayon, right? People who have dealt with
Mhm.
things. Would you be open to sharing a challenge that you've experienced in your life? Maybe a challenge, or maybe like a great success, or maybe the two are interwoven. What are your thoughts on that question?
Well, obviously, we have a lot of challenges. It's not one or two, especially you have teenagers. So what do you need more than that? But um, I would say probably the one, the first thing, like I said before, like the summer camps and going there and being and being responsible and going out of the comfort zone was definitely a challenge that gave me a lot. Um, and you know, making decisions on different things, it's something that there's no yes and no, there's no right and wrong. There's things that you have to make a decision and take it. I would say that I'm not very scared to fail or to be wrong. It's not something that, like I wouldn't do something because, I would be scared that it's not going to work out. So I think that's something, that gives me also the courage to try and to do. Um, every stage in life you have the things that you're dealing with and you're challenged by. I would say probably a big challenge is also being a mother and being a full-time worker and very busy, and having the balance and knowing that you're not always 100% here and there, but
No,
learning from that and trying to.
right. Right. No, that's very powerful. And there are many women out there who, I know my own wife, we're blessed with 6 children and she has a full-time career. And it's definitely a nisayon that many women try to be in all places all the time is kibat impossible, and to do the best that we can. So I appreciate it. It's funny. I was reading this morning just on LinkedIn that they were talking about good CEOs, right? You're in a position of a CEO, they were saying a
Yeah,
good CEO is decisive, right? It doesn't always have to be the perfect decision, but stalling and they said over analysis paralysis. They were talking about that idea that sometimes you have to learn, you have to go, you have to make decisions. You'll see how they work out, and you'll pivot and you'll adjust, and you can't be afraid of that. So I think I think that makes a lot of
yeah.
sense. You're mechaven to that. Last question, I'll just ask. I always like to ask if you leave our listeners with like one really good piece of advice, something that you heard from somebody, something that you go back to, or maybe just your own advice that you have for other people. Like what's like a nugget that you find to be a truth that maybe you weren't always aware of, or that maybe you were and other people could benefit from. Like kind of leave us with one pearl of wisdom as we conclude our discussion.
um I would say maybe, one of the things that I learned in my life that I think is very important as a mother, as a worker with people, um, that there are different types of personalities to get the things done, to get instructions. There's no one key in saying, this has to get done and this is what you should do. And understanding that, like, I say, with my kids, I would say to my daughter, just we need to clean up the place, and she would know what to do. And she would say, don't tell me in details, do this shelf and that shelf. And then my second daughter would say, tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. And understanding that, each one gets everything, in a different way. And you have to know that. You have to know there are different keys. It's very important because everywhere in life, you always have workers and people and kids, and you have to understand that it's not the way you see it, or it's not the way, each one has their own way to have the key and to open up and to give them the direction. So
it's a beautiful, beautiful insight. I had a mentor who used to often say, different strokes for different folks, right? There's different ways to communicate with different people. I remember also, it's funny, I was a rav in a shul in Manhattan for many years before I moved out to the five towns. And often I'd give a drasha on Shabbos morning, and then I would give like practical applications, like to the Balabatim, okay, and like this is the concept, and these are the three takeaways what we need to do. And I would get feedback sometimes from Balabatim that didn't like that, right? They heard the message. They don't want to be told like, Rachel Bitchak Tana, like every little thing, how to do things. And I think it's true. Some people need that kind of hand holding
right.
and guidance, and many other people kind of understand, okay, and I think we see that more in the professional realm today. Like, I think certainly, like, I've always worked in environments where kind of like there's a goal, there's things that need to be done, but nobody's kind of like standing over you. You get your job done. How you decide to do it, and particularly like in the fundraising space, there's like a million different ways to raise funds. You can do a
Right.
dinner, you can do a solicitation, you can do a crowd, like raise the money. I'm not going to tell you how to raise the money. Like, there's a many different ways to skin a cat, as they say.
Right.
So I think it's a very good insight. Okay, beautiful. Chaya, thank you so much for making the time, sharing about the Yael Foundation, and I want to wish you a bracha v'atzlacha that
Amen. You
find
too.
the shalva that Am Yisrael is looking for in Eretz Yisrael in the right time, and continue with the great work that you're doing with Diaspora Jewry to make an incredible impact. Yasher kochech.
Thank you.